Ah, there's Rod. Right, evening all. We have a nice full room and a few on Zoom too. We are going to dedicate this Shiur tonight to the memory of a very special person who passed away yesterday in Manchester, a man called Herzl Hamburger, who was the eldest son of Sir Sidney Hamburger, who himself was an amazing person, a one-off in his generation. His oldest son Herzl followed in his footsteps, was also a very, very fine person. The whole family, a fine family. And Herzl passed away yesterday. I don't know, how old was he, Johnny? He must have been in his 80s, I would have thought. You've muted, Johnny. I can't hear you.
82, 83.
82, 83. He'd been on well for a little while, but a very, very fine person, a very charitable person, a very communal person, and it's an honor to dedicate this shiur to his memory. Herzl ben
Herzl Eliyahu Chaim.
Herzl Eliyahu Chaim ben Shlomo Zalman.
Yeah.
So Yehi Zichro Baruch. We dedicate this shiur to his memory. Okay, we are talking about the Shemonah Esrei, or the Amida, as it should be called. And we got last time. Well, okay. So, Johnny, just for the Zoomers and the recording, Jonathan asked, why is it called two things? Well, when it was originally put together, the weekday prayer, standing prayer, was known as the Shemonah Esrei. Shemonah Esrei means 18, okay? Because when it was put together, this prayer, by the Anshe Knesset Geulah, so we're talking 2,000 years ago, it was put together, and there were 18 brachot. Okay, if you count them up today, you'll find that there aren't 18, there are 19, because later on, an additional bracha of Valam al Shinim, and we'll come to it when we get to it, was added in. Okay, but originally there were 18 brachot, so it was called the Shemonah Esrei. Okay, now it carried on being called the Shemonah Esrei even when there weren't 18 brachot, which is a bit. Now, the prayer is said standing up. Okay, and so therefore it is called the Amidah, which means standing, the standing prayer. Now, you can't call the Amidah of Shabbat the Shemonah Esrei. Why not? You only got 7 brachot, right? All the Chagim have got 7 brachot, except for
Musaf. Musaf? No.
Okay, Musaf of what?
Yom Kippur.
No. Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. Rosh Hashanah has Zichronot, Shofrot, and Malchiot. Okay, so the Rosh Hashanah has more normally in a Musaf of Shabbat, a Musaf of Chag, and Musaf of Yom Kippur. You have the 3 beginning brachot that we have every Amidah, and you have the 3 end ones, and you have 1 in the middle. Okay, you think about the Shabbat one that we're most familiar with. We say up to Hakel Kadosh, that's the first 3, and then we have either in Shacharit we have Yismach Moshe, and in Musaf we have Tikanta Shabbat, yeah, and then we go on to the last 3 from Ritzei. Okay, so it's 7. There are 7 brachot in the Tefillot of Shabbat and Chag, so you can't call that a Shemonah Esrei. So really, we shouldn't call it at all. We shouldn't really call it Shemonah Esrei at all, because there is no Amidah that has 18 brachot anymore. The weekday ones to which that refers to really is got 19. So, but it never caught on. To call it the Cha Esrei never caught on. It's a bit like VHS and Betamax, you know. Betamax never really caught on. So I always call it the Shemonah Esrei, and I'm trying hard not to. I'm trying to call it the Amidah because that's what it really should be called. So we got last time as far as, I think last time we did slicha, if I'm not mistaken. We did the bracha of Lach Lanu Avinu. So we're going to go on to the next one.
In the house of Pasha, I did something that related to our last Shiur. We talked about the difference between Slicha and Kapara, and when Moses breaks the tablets and goes back up again, and God says to him, he cleanses, but not completely. So I connected it with
that's what we were talking about last time. This idea. The idea of slicha. Now, I'm going to come back to it. So we'll just hold that. Hannah was talking about...
Can I ask you one question? Okay, carry on. Sorry. I want to ask you something.
I'll come back to you in a sec. Hannah was just asking about with the Egel HaZahav in last week's parsha, the people are forgiven but not completely forgiven.
He says in the 13 Midot HaChesed, he says he cleanses, but not completely.
V'nakeh lo yenakeh. Okay, so that's the idea that we spoke about last time of slicha, mechila, and kapara. What was the difference? They were all different levels. Kapara being the highest level, kapara being atonement, meaning purification. You're done. When you've got kapara, the slate is wiped clean. But we didn't see that in our slicha bracha. Let's just see what we do see. Slach lanu.
Johnny, can I ask you just one thing? Sorry.
Yeah.
I was only could have been thinking of these brachas from your Shiur, but when we make the bracha Mechaya HaMeitim, how do we know that God is going to resuscitate the dead? Is it not a bracha? We don't know about that.
Well, that is one of the 13 principles of faith. That the Rambam says that you have to believe that in order to be a believing Jew. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema.
I'm not saying I don't believe in it. I'm just asking.
So it's one of the 13 principles of faith. The 13 ani ma'amins. Ani ma'amin b'tchiyat hametim. I believe that with complete faith. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema. So in a way, by saying Baruch Atah Hashem Mechaya Meitim, we are in effect making that statement, aren't we? Because what you're saying is, how do we know? Well, so of course we know, because we believe with complete faith. Now, you could argue, well, we're not quite sure because nobody's ever come back to find out. And so therefore, maybe if we say it's a bracha levatala, right? Maybe it's going to be a bracha levatala. Maybe it doesn't exist. No, we say Baruch Atah Hashem knowing that it's not a bracha levatala because we believe with complete faith. So in some ways, your question answers itself. The fact that we actually say the bracha is the answer to the question.
Okay.
All the doubt.
Yeah, it takes the doubt away, because if there was a doubt, we wouldn't say a bracha about it. So just go back to the slicha that Hannah was talking about. Let's look at the bracha that we did last time. Slach lanu, so there's the salach. Mechal lanu, there's the mechila. Where's the kapara? It's not there.
It comes on Yom Kippur.
Okay, kapara we have on Yom Kippur, that's right. But we're going to see in the next bracha that there's a sort of a connection, and we'll see. Let's go on and we'll see. So the bracha that we're going to do today is called what?
Geulah.
Redemption, correct. Geulah. Bob Marley, okay? Bob Marley, the redemption song. The redemption song. Okay, so Geulah is redemption. Now, we've spoken about redemption already, haven't we? When did we speak about redemption in the Tefilah Shiur? This is not the first time we have come across redemption in our morning prayers. Ga'al Yisrael, correct. At the end, just before the Amidah.
Yeah.
Remember, we had a whole discussion about whether you should say it out loud, you should not say it out loud, whether you should say Amen, whether you should say it together with the Chazan. Remember that whole story? So that was very interesting, because let's just flick back in your Siddur, if you have, to that bracha. How does it end? Sur Yisrael, the rock of Israel, Kuma, arise, Be'ezrat Yisrael, and help Israel. Ufidei chinumecha, and redeem. Fidei pedut is a different type of redemption. I'm not quite sure the difference between pedut and Geulah, but it means to similar sort of thing.
Pedut is when somebody's been taken captive or something.
Right.
Yeah,
Liberate. Okay, liberate. Okay, that's a good translation. Liberate. And liberate chinumecha, like you have spoken, Yehuda v'Yisrael, to Yehuda and Israel. Why Yehuda and Israel, by the way? Yeah, it's a reference to the southern kingdom of Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel, the 10 lost tribes. We are praying for the 10 lost tribes every day, even though we don't know it. Galenu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, redeem us, Hashem, the God of hosts. Shemo, his name, Kadosh Yisrael, his name is holiness. Baruch Atah Hashem, Ga'al Yisrael. What does that mean? Blessed are you, Hashem, Ga'al Yisrael.
Redeem. You know, I don't know say it in English. What?
Redeemed.
No? What does it mean?
Redeemed.
Yeah, past
tense.
Past tense.
Past tense. Ga'al Yisrael. Blessed are you, Hashem, Ga'al Yisrael, who has redeemed, in the past tense, Israel. Okay, now what's that referring to? It must be referring to what's gone on in the past. What have we been talking about up until here? What did we talk about? Moshe uvnei Israel lecha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. At the Kriyat Yamsuf, at the splitting of the Red Sea, what did they say? Mi chamocha ba'elim Hashem. So what are they talking about here? When he says Ga'al Yisrael, what's he talking about? He's talking about Egypt. He's talking about the redemption from Egypt, which is, if you like, the archetypal redemption. That is the redemption. If you were talking about the Exodus, with a capital E, we're not talking about the film with Paul Newman, right? We're talking about the Exodus. We're talking about the film with Charlton Heston. That's a different one, right? Yeah, the 10 Commandments. Yeah, a great film. Loved it. So here, in before the Amidah, when we're talking about redemption, it's in the past tense. Ga'al Yisrael. We are thanking Hashem, as it were, for the redemption that we had. Because without that redemption, as we say in the Haggadah, if we had not been redeemed, we would still be slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. Okay? So we're at this point, it's in the past tense. Fast forward to our bracha now. Let's have a look. I know we're going a bit backwards, but how does this bracha end? Baruch atah Hashem, Goel Yisrael. Yeah, it's in the present tense. Goel Yisrael, who redeems Israel, or the redeemer of, i.e., current redeemer. Okay, you could say that, but Goel, that's the it's a bit of a quirk of the Hebrew language, because in English, one who redeems is a redeemer. Okay, one who eats is an eater. Okay, one who drives is a driver. There are two different words. Okay, but in Hebrew, Goel, the word means, it's a verb. It can also be a noun. Okay, let's take the word madrich. Okay, you're familiar with that from your Bnei Akiva days, right? Madrich. What is a madrich?
A leader.
A leader. It's also a verb. Somebody who madrich, he leads. Okay, so it's the same word. The verb and the noun is the same. So you can translate this as either the noun, the redeemer of, but it's also the present tense of the verb, meaning he who redeems, the one who redeems, or and that's in the present tense, as opposed to Ga'al Yisrael, which we said earlier on, which is in the past tense. Now we have to, it's important now, because with the two different Geulah brachot, that one at the before the Shemonah Esrei, before the Amidah, and this one within the Amidah, they're two slightly different approaches. The one before, we are as it were, acknowledging and thanking Hashem for having redeemed us from Egypt initially. Here, we are asking for something. This is this section of brachot. Remember, the Amidah consists of 3 sections. The first section, those first 3 brachot, which are common to every Amidah that we just said earlier on, they are the recognition of God's power. Okay, He is Magen Avraham. He is El Kadosh. He's Mechayeh Ametim. That's power. Mashiva Ruach Umorid Geshem. That's power. Okay, we're recognizing the power. The last 3, which are common to all Amidot, is Ritzei, which begins what is the bracha there? Modim. What does Modim mean?
Thank you. Thank you.
Acknowledge, or the same word, Todah.
Thanks.
Thank. So we're thanking Hashem. Not really, no, it's not praise. It's thanks or acknowledgement. Okay. The second one of those 3 is Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. What's that mean? Lehodot. To thank. So the last 3 are about thanking. First 3 are power. Last 3 are about thanking. And the middle section is for asking. That's right. Bakasha. What's bakasha mean? Request. Bevakasha means please, because you say it with a request. Okay. Not a commonly used word here in Israel, bevakasha, only by foreigners. But there you go. So these middle section are all about asking for something. So we're not at this point saying Ga'al Yisrael, acknowledging the redemption. This is Go'el Yisrael. This is asking for us to be redeemed. So thank you. So we have to go into the bracha now in detail, like we always do. Let's look at the beginning of the bracha. Re'ei, and some versions have got na in it.
Can you also you interpret Goel Yisrael? Yeah, you said that, didn't you? As the Redeemer.
Yeah.
So we're not thanking him, or we're not.
No, we're recognizing him as a Redeemer.
Redemption now.
We are. And you'll see, if you look at the beginning of the bracha, remember the end of the bracha is a summary of what the bracha is about. And you'll see, it's very clear, we are asking for something. And that's what we're going to look at now. So, we say to God, Re'ei na. Okay? Na is not in there in every version. What does the word na mean?
Please.
Please. It's another word for please. Another word that's not commonly heard here. Okay? Re'ei na. We're saying to God, please, Re'ei, look, or see. Re'ei na. Look, the onyenu. By the way, it's not, those of you who are going to be davening before the Amud, it's not anyenu, it's a kamat katan, so it's onyenu, okay? You have to say onyenu, not anyenu. It's one of those, things that you weren't taught in Theda. And so when I once asked an Israeli to explain to me the rule of Kamat Katan. Okay, if you want to really know the rule from Kamat Katan, you have to ask Ruby. Okay, but you will understand the answer is because he knows it. He knows too much. So you know. But I once asked an Israeli to explain to me, how do you know when to say oh, and it's a Kamat Katan, and he didn't have a clue. He says you just know, and I couldn't get my head around that until I thought of this. Charlie, how do you know that the word C-O-U-G-H is not Kouga? You just know, don't you? Okay, and it's the same thing. So somebody who what you think it is, David? David Coleman thinks C-O-U-G-H is Kouga. Now, in the Rinat Yisrael, it's very helpful because it has a it has a longer kamat. But so this is a kamatz katan, and usually if the kamatz is followed by a shva nach, then it's off. So va'onyenu, so le'ovdenu. Okay, that's a common mistake that people make when they daven. They say la'avdenu, and it's not. It's la'ovdenu. Okay. Anyway, I digress. So re'eh na.
Is the translation still the same though? Has it changed?
Doesn't change the translation. No, it's
okay.
it's the correct way of pronouncing it.
Yes. Okay.
So re'eh na va'onyenu. Please look at what does it mean? Onyenu. What's the root of that word? No.
Onion, affliction.
Hannah says oni. What does that mean?
Poverty.
It means poverty. That's true.
Misery.
Misery. It means that as well. I'll give you a clue what it really means. I'll give you a clue. Yom Kippur. Suffering. Yes. Halach ma'anya. Correct. That is the same word. Halach ma'anya, which means this is the bread of affliction. Why did I say Yom Kippur? What is the mitzvah of Yom Kippur? To afflict yourself. That's what the fasting and the and all the other restrictions and not washing and all that stuff is all about. It's onyenu means our affliction. Halach ma'anya, that's exactly the same word. So we're saying to God, please look at our affliction. Now, obviously, we're going to say, we know, don't we, because we've read on, that we are asking him to look at our affliction because we want him to do what? To redeem us from that affliction. Now, I've got a question. This is the only bracha. This is the only bracha where we ask Hashem to look at our situation first. So, for example, let's just go back to atachonein, right? When we're asking for knowledge, understanding. We don't say, please God, look how stupid I am. Please make me clever, right? Hashivenu avinu l'tortecha. Bring us back to your Torah. We don't say, look how far I have strayed from your Torah. Please bring me back. This is the only only bracha in this section of Bakasha, this whole middle section, where we ask God to view our situation and then we ask him to remedy that situation. Interesting, no? Why would that be, do you think? Any suggestions as to why it would be that just dafka on this bracha of Geulah, of redemption, that we ask God to look at our current situation?
We do it in other places too. We do it, we say that God heard our calling out in Egypt and the Red Sea.
But we don't see it in the Amidah. This is the only place in the Amidah. That's my question. Why dafka this bracha and not any of the others?
God does something good for us, like rescues us. When it's referred to as you heard us or you saw us. So we're asking him to look at us and see. We're not looking.
Okay, I understand that, but you haven't answered my question. The next one, Rafa'enu, it doesn't say, look how ill we are, please heal us. So why just dafka this one? Okay, I'll give you an answer in a minute. Okay, let's carry on. And the answer may well become apparent. So, Re'einu v'anyenu, please God, look at our affliction. Look at the state we're in. We're in a bad way. V'riva rivenu. What's riv?
Argument.
Riv is an argument. That's right.
An increasement.
No, that's rov.
Okay.
This is riv with a yud in it. Means an argument or a fight. Fight. So riva rivenu means fight our fight. We're asking God here to get involved in our fight. I mean,
it's Riv Revi, we're saying.
Say that again, Johnny.
We're saying Riv Revi on Rosh Hashanah, is it one of the songs? Riv Revi. Is that not the same word?
It probably is. Yes,
Yeah.
probably is. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but it probably is. It means to fight our fight here. We're asking God to fight our fight. Now, if this is not a bracha that we ought to be saying with kavanah right now, I don't know what is. Okay? God, look at the state we're in. V'rivarivenu, and fight our fight. Come in on our side.
It should be said what the Tehillim was saying now, I think.
Yeah, well, that's why we should be saying this with great kavanah right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Galenu and redeemers, mehira. Does that mean?
Quickly.
Easily, quickly. Lama'an shemecha, for the sake of your name. Well, we'll come back to that little bit in a minute. Just put Lama'an shemecha to the side for a minute. So now, sorry, Charlie, yeah. I think it's probably referring to the entirety of Jewish history, because for the vast majority of that history, we've been in a poor state. I think we've said this many times before. The 3 commonwealths where we have been sovereign in our own land have been very short-lived. 70 years Shlomo and David, 73 years the Shemonah, and 75 years now. Not a lot in the whole 3,500 years. Well, how many years since David HaMelech? 3,000 years since David HaMelech. And out of that 3,000 years, we have been sovereign for 220. Under 220. What's that as a percentage? Not a lot. 7%. About the same. The population of Netanya has increased in the last 5 years.
The Art commentary, Johnny says, if I can read it for you.
Yeah.
Though Israel suffers because of its own sins, our enemies have no right to claim that they are merely doing God's work, because they cause Israel to suffer much more than necessary.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's a whole different philosophy altogether.
And so similarly, the Egyptians were punished because they made us do extra work.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Havdil, Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon wrote his autobiography was called. You know what his autobiography was called? No, he didn't call himself Tricky Dicky. Other people called him Tricky Dicky. His autobiography, Richard Nixon's autobiography, was called "I Gave Them a Sword," and the subline, the subtitle was "And they twisted it with relish." Okay, so if you think about that, right? Relish means they did it with great pleasure. They twisted it with pleasure. So if you think about Richard Nixon, he gave them a sword. The sword that he gave them was Watergate, right? Yeah. But they went to town. They absolutely loved sticking it in and twisting it. Okay, so this is the same idea. You could argue, well, Pharaoh was just doing God's work, right? But he didn't have to enjoy it. He didn't have to do it with such relish. He didn't have to twist that sword with relish. So it's and that's what I think. That's what Johnny has basically just read out. So now you can see, Hannah, why this is a bracha that is asking for something. It clearly says it. Get involved. Come in on our side and redeem us. So the Baruch Atah Hashem Go'el Yisrael is not just a statement saying you are the Redeemer. That is the end of the bracha that says, God, we are in big trouble. We need you on our side. We are onyenu. We are afflicted. Okay. Now that can be on an individual basis. Okay, on a personal basis. A person could find themselves, God forbid, in a difficult situation, whether it be health or parnasa or whatever it is. A person could find themselves in a bad situation. Their lives are difficult, whatever it may be. And this bracha is saying to look at my affliction. I'm suffering here. I'm really suffering. I think you mentioned that, Warren, that it says suffering in that translation. Yeah. So I'm really suffering here. And what do I need? What do we need when we're suffering? Who do we call to? Who do we turn to? Hashem. Riva Rivenu. Come on, God. Fight my fight for me. Or, of course, it could be on a national level like it is now. This is what we should be saying now with great kavanah, with great concentration and great feeling and hope. And that is Riva Rivenu. It's a prayer. Please, God, fight our fight for us. Okay?
Later on, we do have one for everyone. So here, the commentator explains that the request is not for national redemption, subject of later blessings. Here, the references to release from personal currency.
Okay, so I'm not sure on what that is based, since this is in the plural. I mean, I don't think that there is a precluding of this to be on a national level. Yeah, I would take issue with that a bit, David, because it says Goel Yisrael. Oh, I wouldn't take issue with Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, but I for one see this as a national prayer as well as an individual prayer. There may be one later on as well, which is probably Shema Koleni, I imagine, but I would have thought Shema Koleni was more an individual one. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But for me, at least, if not for Rav Hirsch, for me at least, it's got a dual meaning here. It's got a personal meaning and a national meaning. And of course, it's different things at different times. Yes, Hannah, you wanted to ask something?
What came to mind was Hanukkah. We said Danta
is dinam. That's the same word. We use the same word. Ravta et rivam. Yeah, it's the same word. You're right.
Yeah, but it doesn't use for Galtanu.
Let's have a look. Okay, so what do we say? We say Va'ata b'rachamecha rabim. This is in Al Hanisim. Hannah has pointed out that there is a connection here. So in Al Hanisim we say Va'ata b'rachamecha harabim, and you with great mercy, amadata lahem be'et saratam. You stood with them at their time of sarah, at their time of trouble. So it's not the same, exactly the same as Riva Rivenu, but listen to the next words. Ravta et rivam. You fought their fight. Exactly the same. So again, in Al Hanisim, what are we doing? We're thanking. Where is Al Hanisim? In the middle of the thank you prayer, where it should be, because this is a thank you. It's not this bracha that we're doing today is not a thank you bracha. It's a please bracha. Okay, the thank you comes later. So,
but what strikes me is it doesn't use the same terminology. There, he stood by them, and we're not asking God to stand by us. We're not saying Tamod v'tzidenu. We're saying.
But it does say later on. It does say later on asita. It does say asita teshua gedola. Shua is a salvation. Okay, so although it doesn't use the word Geulah, because it wasn't actually a complete Geulah. Geulah, what does the word Geulah mean? Redemption, which is basically a complete. It's a complete act. What do we say about the when will we have the final redemption, the Geulah Shlema? When Mashiach comes, whatever that means. Okay, so when Mashiach comes, whatever that means, there will be the final and full redemption. The word redemption implies, to me at least, implies a complete job. Like we were redeemed from Egypt. We weren't sort of just saved from slavery. We were completely taken out. Complete redemption. Chanukah was not a complete redemption. And I think that's why the word Geulah was not used, because Chanukah was not a complete redemption, because we still were under the we still were under the rule of the Greeks. We had this small, short period of time where the Maccabees were, but they didn't control the whole country, and it didn't last, and so it wasn't a complete redemption. So I think that possibly is why it uses a different word and not Geulah. So let's go back to our bracha. So we're saying here, I've not answered my own question yet. My own question was, why are we asking God to see where we are before we ask for the actual redemption? We don't have that in any other bracha. And I think the answer lies in one English word, which in Hebrew has been stolen from the English, and that is empathy. Okay, how do you say empathy in Hebrew? Empatia. Okay, it's like televisia, right? They've nicked it. But empathy, we all know what empathy is, right? What's the difference between sympathy and empathy?
To feel the person's pain.
Yes, that's it. Sympathy, you feel sorry for somebody. Empathy, you feel that your pain is with them. You feel you're part of it. Okay. So what we're asking for God to do for here is to show us empathy. Okay, we're asking him, look at where we are and fight our fight. Be part of it with us. Know how we feel. Okay, not just be sympathetic to how we feel, but know how we feel. Because when somebody is empathetic to you, that is the greatest help to a person. What do we say when we want to try and comfort somebody? I feel for you. All right, I feel for you. What does that mean? It means I feel your pain. I share your pain. I'm sorry for your loss. What does that mean? It means that I'm feeling the part of the pain that you have. In Hebrew, in the Torah terminology, there is something called noseh et ol chavero. Noseh, somebody who carries, et ol, the burden, chavero, of his friend. Okay, noseh et ol chavero. If you are somebody who carries the burden of your friend, it means that you're empathetic. If somebody is struggling, you can either say, "Oh, that's a shame, feel sorry for you," and walk on, or you can get down on your, get your hands dirty and get involved and help them. Okay, and be empathetic towards them. So empathy is a very human. It's a very human emotion. It's a very human thing to do. I don't know that animals feel empathetic. I don't know if they do or they don't. But what we're asking here, and remember, humans are the reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, made b'Tselem Elokim. We're asking God to be empathetic. And I want to take you to a pasuk, which I'm going to show you on the screen for those who are on Zoom and the recording. And it's in Sefer Shemot. It's in Parshat Shemot, chapter 2, verse 24 and 25. Let me share the screen with you, Zoomers. Give me a second to do that. Here it is. I'm hoping you can see that very shortly. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to say for the people in the room, this is in Parashat Shemot. So we're talking about the Exodus from Egypt, right? Vayishma Elohim et naakatam, and God heard et naakatam, their cries. God heard their cries. Vayizkor Elohim, and God remembered et brito, his covenant, et Avraham et Yitzchak et Yaakov, with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Vayar Elohim et bnei Israel, and God, Vayar, saw, same word as we've got as re'ena. God saw the bnei Israel, Vayeda Elohim, and God knew. Knew what? God knew what? That's the end of the pasuk. God saw the children of Israel and God knew. God knew what? Doesn't tell us. God knew. You just know because he felt. I didn't hear, sorry. Susie, what did you say? So he remembered his promise. That's right. But that's the Vayis Kor. He remembered the Brit. He remembered the covenant that he'd made with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But then it says, Vayah Elohim et bnei Israel. He saw or he looked. I prefer looked, actually. It says God saw. But I prefer he looked. He looked at bnei Israel. Vayeda Elohim. And God knew. He looked and he knew. He knew how they felt. And how did they feel?
So that's empathy.
That's empathy. That's what I'm saying. That is empathy. When you look and you know how somebody feels, that's empathy. And that's what we're asking for in our bracha. Re'ena. Look, God. Same word. V'rivarivenu. And get involved. Fight our fight. Ugo'elenu mehira laman shmecha. And redeem us. Lama'an shemecha. Let's come back to that bit now. Lama'an shemecha. Redeem us for the sake of your name. Why not redeem us for our own sake? Why redeem us for the sake of your name? What does that mean? For the sake of your name. What do you understand by that expression?
To carry on the Judaism, to carry on our faith.
Okay, all right. That's fair enough. That's a good one. So if you don't redeem us, God, we're all going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And what will happen then? Who are we? Who are we, the Jewish people?
God's people, God's
We
children.
are God's people. So if God's people are suffering, and if God's people are downtrodden, what does that say about God? What do we say? We read it in last week's parasha, actually. What do we say when we do the laning for a fast day in Parashat Ki Tisa, which we read last week? What do we say? Vayechal Moshe. Let's just get the laning up. Hang on, it'll be in the back of this siddur. Don't want to make a mistake with it. Should know it off by heart. I've laned it that many times, but I don't know it off by heart properly. Here we go. Vayechal Moshe. Et pnei Hashem lekav vayoma, and he says, vayoma, and he says, Moshe says to God, at the time when God is preparing to destroy the Jewish people because of the Egel HaZahav, because of the golden calf. What does he say? He says, Lama Adonai yechera apcha be'amecha. Why are you getting angry with your people, Asher hotzeta me'eretz Mitzrayim, who you took out of Egypt, b'koach gadol u'v'yad chazakah, with a strong hand and great power? Why are you getting angry with them? And then he says this, Lama yomru hagoyim leimor. Why should the goyim say, Bara'ah hotziam laharogotam? With evil intent you took them out of Egypt in order to kill them, beharim, in the mountains, ulachalotam, and to destroy them, me'al panei ha'adama, from the face of the earth. Moshe says, if you destroy the Jewish people, what's that going to look like for you? The Goyim are going to say, this is not a proper God. This is not the way it should be. He took his people out in order to kill them and to wipe them off the face of the earth. That's not good. Why do you want the Goyim to say that, says Moshe? And then he says, and we all say it all together, don't we? Shuv mecharon apecha. Return from your anger. In other words, stop being so angry. V'hinachem al hara'a li'amecha. And go back on your intent, your evil intent for this people. Moshe says the chutzpah, has this chutzpah to say to God, you realize if you destroy these people, it's going to look very bad on you. All the goyim in the world are going to say, you are not much of a God you are. You've got a God of the people. You're going to take them out of Egypt and then just destroy them in the mountains. What kind of God is that? So we're saying, Laman Shemecha, if we don't deserve it ourselves, God, at least, like we didn't deserve it then, did we? When Moshe was arguing, he couldn't really say, oh, well, don't destroy this people because they haven't done anything really bad. We had done something really bad. Okay, so the argument that he came up with was not going to look good for you, God. And in a way, we're doing the same thing when we say Ugoelenu Laman Shemecha. We're saying we may not deserve to be redeemed here, but at least do it for your own name's sake. And we say it in the Avinu Malkeinu that we're saying at the moment all the time. Avinu Malkeinu Asei Laman Shemecha. Act for the sake of your name. The same thing. Yes, Charlie.
He read that he's angry for a moment, but
this is before Rosh Hashanah you're talking about. Let's just have a look exactly.
So saying he's angry just for a moment, and his favor is forever.
Let's just see that. Kirega ba'apo, chayim birtzono. What a beautiful expression. Kirega ba'apo is angry for a minute, and the whole of his life he gives birtzono. He gives us ratzon, which means positivity. Yeah, nice. I like that. So what we're saying here is in our bracha is this idea of and now I've answered the question. Why are we asking God in a way that we don't ask him in any of the other brachot to look at the situation we're in? We don't say we're ill, please heal us, but we do say Re'eina v'anyenu, because we want him to really look at our situation and empathize. And Yeda, Vayeda Elokim. God knew. He knew because he got inside of us, as it were. And of course, one of the things that we must bear in mind the whole time is that every midah, every character trait that we ask God to do to us, we are meant to do to others, because we are Tselem Elokim. We are made in the image of God, and we are meant to reflect. We say Hashem Rachamim, Anachnu Bnei Rachamim. We have to be merciful. God is Erech Apayim. God is one slow to anger. We have to be slow to anger. So by saying this bracha with kavanah, and we're asking God to empathize with our situation, the subtext there is we should be telling ourselves, work on yourself to be noseh ol chavero, to help carry the burden of your friend. You see somebody who's in trouble, really try and help. Really try and fight his fight for him. Don't just walk on. Don't just walk away. Get involved. Empathize. Do what you would want God to do for you, that you pray for every day. When you say this, you should be thinking as well, this is my responsibility to everybody else as well. If I see or hear or want to come across somebody who's in trouble, we have to try and empathize, not just sympathize, but empathize and get involved. Riva rivenu, fight their fight with them, carry their burden. We say, what do we say in English? There's an expression, isn't it? A trouble shared is a trouble halved. And that's very true. A trouble shared is a trouble, you probably don't have that in Dutch, but in English we have that. A trouble shared is a trouble halved, meaning that if you have a friend who shares your sorrow, your pain, it takes. Oh, there you go. There you go. You do have it in Dutch. It's all double Dutch to me. Okay.
So you have somebody who goes to visit a person who is sick. When they leave, they take with them 1/60th of the
and that's because we've demonstrated the fact that we 1/60th. Yeah, there's a Chazal that says that when you go and do Bikur Cholim, when you go and visit somebody, as it were, you take away 1/60th of their illness, as it were. So you get 60 people in and you're done. Yeah. So this is the prayer that we're talking about. It's a prayer for empathy. Now, I want to show you a pasuk in Tanakh where this whole bracha comes from. Did it ever occur to you to ask the question, why the wording of this bracha or any other bracha is the way it is? Never really occurred to me. Somebody had to write it, right? So this is what they wrote. But actually, on this particular bracha, there is a source for this bracha. I don't expect any of you will know it, so I'm not going to ask you. But if you do, pipe up now. No? Okay. It's in Sefer Yirmiyahu, okay? The book of Jeremiah. It is in chapter, I can't even remember now. It's in chapter 50 of Jeremiah, verse 34. Now, Jeremiah lived when? What was his?
Destruction of the temple.
Yeah.
Just before.
Yeah, and after. Through the destruction of the first temple, okay, not the second temple, first temple. It was destroyed by the Babylonians, okay, around about 564 BCE, something like that. So he lived at the time of great sorrow, great stress for the Jewish people. This was a destruction of the temple, the first temple where all the miracles took place, the temple built by Shlomo HaMelech. The connection was about to be destroyed. That connection between the great David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech era was about to be completely severed with the destruction of the temple. And it was a terrible time. Listen to the pasuk. Listen to the pasuk in Yirmiyahu chapter 50. Goalam Chazak Adonai. Their Redeemer, meaning Israel, Chazak Adonai, is Chazak, Goalam Chazak. Their Redeemer is strong. Adonai Tzevaot Shemo. The God of hosts is his name. Riv Yariv et Rivam. He shall surely fight their fight. Lama'an Hirgia et Haaretz. In order that the earth should be ragua. What's ragua? Modern Hebrew word? Calm. The earth should be calm. V'hirgiz leyoshvei Bavel. What's v'hirgiz? Yeah, aggravates. And if you say somebody who margizoti, means it means he irritates me, it angers me. Okay, and so you see the words Goalam Chazak. Riv Yariv et Rivam. It's our bracha. Okay? It's our bracha. Re'ei navanyenu v'riva rivenu. Uga aleinu. Mehera leman shemecha. Baruch atah Hashem. Go'el Yisrael. So our bracha here, to summarize, takes its inspiration from Yirmiyahu, from Jeremiah, who at this point, Jeremiah is known as the prophet of doom, known as the prophet of doom, because the majority of his writings were like Eicha. He wrote Eicha, right? Doom and gloom and dirge. But within those writings, there are certain bits that are full of hope and full of prayer for the ultimate redemption. And he basically says, it's going to be terrible. If you don't buck your ideas up, God is going to destroy the temple and it's going to be rotten. And they didn't, and he did. And he describes all of that rottenness. But then he says, don't worry about it, because at the end of days, God will never abandon us completely. And there will ultimately be a Geulah. There will be a redemption. And so our bracha here takes its inspiration from this pasuk in Yirmiyahu. And we are asking God in this bracha to, as it were, come down and be part of us, to see us in our state of affliction and to fight our fight and to get involved and to redeem us. Because ultimately, God, Baruch atah Hashem, blessed are you, Go'el Yisrael. You are the one who in the present tense is the Redeemer of Israel. Not Gaal Yisrael, which we said previously. That's in the past. We need something now. What's gone on, it's like in medicine, we always used to say, you're only as good as your last prescription, right? Don't matter what you've done for somebody, you could have saved their life 10 times over. You give them the wrong prescription once, or you don't give them an antibiotic when they want one, you're done, right? You're only as good as your last prescription. That's not what we're saying here. Goel Yisrael, you are the Redeemer of Israel. You are the one who we can rely on. You're the only one we can rely on. And we're asking you, which is why I like that word na in there. Na, it's a pleading. Na is a pleading word. We're pleading with God to look at our state of affliction, to get involved in our fight, and to be the Redeemer of Israel. That is what this bracha is about. And right now, with apologies to Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, I believe that this can refer to the national situation as well as the personal situation. And for me, it's a very important bracha that we should be saying with extra special kavanah right now. Okay, time's up. Any questions in the room, first of all?
I have a question. This morning I was listening to a shiur about last week's parasha, and the rabbi who was giving it said, when Moses is up on the mountain getting the 10 Commandments, he says to Moses, go down to your people.
Lech Reid El Ha'am. Yeah, go down. So the people who you brought out of Egypt.
And he made the comment that the people fell from their exalted position at at Mount Sinai, and the sheer act of their falling brought Moshe down too. It was sort of like together. When the people fall, he falls. Now go down and deal with it. You're not of a state. You're not of a position now to receive the Bible. Yeah, because it was more than just the 10 Commandments. Okay, the Bible. And I was just thinking that if that is so, then when we say L'man Shimcha, if we as a nation fall, then maybe we also bring down God with us.
Absolutely, we do. 100%. That's the whole concept of Chilul Hashem and Kiddush Hashem. 100%. What do people say when they see a Jew do something wrong?
That's a Chilul
Hashem, isn't it?
Hashem.
What do we say? We're profaning God's name. We're bringing God's name down. That's absolutely the case, Hannah. I absolutely agree with that. And we have a responsibility. And the more Jewish we are, or the more Jewish we look, the greater the responsibility to behave in a proper way. Because we do bring down God's name. The L'man Shemecha bit is exactly that. Correct. Any questions on Zoom?
I was just going to say, when I mentioned Riv Rivi, because you said the Riva Rivenu, I've looked it up. It's in Yom Kippur evening, and we say Salakti, if you remember the song Salakti.
Yeah,
it says Riv Rivi, She'e Nivi, Vahashiveni.
What's the translation in there?
The same words are here. Take up my grievance, attend to my words, and answer me. I have forgiven.
Take up my grievance. Now that's a nice way of putting it, because that's exactly what we're asking for, isn't it? If I take up your grievance, what does that mean? It means I'm going to bat for you, right? I'm going to battle for you because I'm taking up your grievance. That's the same idea. That's a nice translation, like that.
Yeah, Thank you. Same words, Riv Rivi.
Thank you. Well remembered.
I was thinking of Rivi Rosenzweig.
Yeah. yeah. Another great guy.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Laila Tov, everybody.
Laila Tov, Johnny. Thank you.